So let's talk about the censorship that is happening is real. So Jen Psaki what's going on right now is crazy. This is when I grew up. This is the opposite of what our country was supposed to be about. Supposed to be about freedom of speech and the First Amendment, and that's what made us better than other countries, is our freedom and our liberty. And now it's like everybody, it's like, oh no, we got to have, everybody's just like, yeah, censorship. Everybody, you got to have it. Here's Jen Psaki. Watch
with these social media platforms, and those engagements typically happen through members of our senior staff, but also members of our COVID-19 team.
So their COVID-19 team is perusing Facebook for misinformation. That instead of working on COVID, that's what they're doing. That's what it sounds like to me. Here we go.
Dr. Murthy conveyed, this is a big issue of misinformation, specifically on the pandemic. In terms of actions, Alex, that we have taken, or we're working to take, I should say, from the federal government, we've increased disinformation research and tracking within the Surgeon General's office. We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation. We're working with doctors and medical professionals to connect to connected medical experts who are popular with their audiences with accurate information and boost trusted content. So we're helping get trusted content out there. We also created the COVID Community Corps to get factual information into the hands of local messengers. And we're also investing, as you all have seen, in the president's, the vice president's, and Dr. Fauci's time in meeting with.
So that's what they're spending their time doing. They're perusing Facebook and regular people posting stuff about COVID. That's so, and they're coordinating it, and they're telling Facebook what to take down or what not to. Well, here's what Glenn Greenwald says about it. The Biden administration is telling Facebook which posts it regards as problematic so that Facebook can remove them. This is the union of corporate and state power, one of the classic hallmarks of fascism. That the people who spent 5 years babbling about fascism now support. So in order to fight fascism, they're using fascism. So that's the whole thing. We got to fight Trump and the Trumpers and misinformation. And how do you do that? Censorship, corporate and state power combined. It's nuts what's going on. There's about 12 people that are producing 65% of anti-vaccine information, and they remain active on Facebook, according to Facebook. So here, let's listen to her. Jen Psaki has suggested that people spreading misinformation be banned from all other platforms if they're banned from one. Here we go.
So a couple of the steps that we have, that could be constructive for the public health of the country are providing for Facebook or other platforms to measure and publicly share the impact of misinformation on their platform and the audience it's reaching. Also with the public, with all of you, to create robust enforcement strategies that bridge their properties and provide transparency about rules. You shouldn't be banned from one platform and not others if you for providing misinformation out there. Taking faster action against harmful posts.
So the shit libs are all for this, right? Now, you remember I got in many debates with the Young Turks about censorship. They're for this, right? And lots of people are for this, that are in the TYT universe. And guess who else is for it? He says, I'd be down for that. He's good. This guy's Carl Gibson. Who is Carl Gibson? He's impartially favors the oppressor. He's a writer for Really American One, words on CNN, The Guardian, Washington Post, Barron's, Business Insider, Independent, NPR. There it is. He's all for it. The shit libs are all for it. They're not afraid to admit it in public. That's a guy who's apparently his words have appeared in all these places according to his Twitter bio. Impartiality favors the oppressor. He's a writer. He's a writer who's for censorship. What do you think favors the oppressor? Censorship or freedom of speech? What do you think? What do you think favors the oppressor, Mr. Writer? He's all for everything she said. He's down for this. He's everything she says, he's cool with this.
So a couple of the steps that we have, that could be constructive for the public health of the country are providing for Facebook or other platforms to measure and publicly share the impact of misinformation on their platform and the audience it's reaching. Also with the public, with all of you, to create robust enforcement strategies that bridge their properties and provide transparency.
Robust enforcement strategies. Enforcement of what? Enforcement of censorship. Robust censorship strategies. That's what. Not robust enforcement. Enforcement of what? Enforcement of censorship. But they know they can't say that. Isn't that interesting? They're stopping. They don't say we're using censorship. They're saying we're using robust enforcement to stop misinformation. You're using robust censorship.
About rules. You shouldn't be banned from one platform and not others if you are for providing misinformation out there.
What? So if Jack, so apparently Mark Zuckerberg or Jack at Twitter, if they have unilateral power over all other social medias. So what if you piss off somebody at Instagram, you're gone from all the other ones. If you piss off somebody at Twitter, you're gone from what is going on?
Don't forget Pinterest.
What is going on? I mean, this idea that you could take away people's printing press. That's what this is, right? So the social media of today is the town square. It's the printing press. And so what they're saying is we're going to take away people's printing press.
They did it to the president.
They did it, and everybody cheered it on. And the shit libs on the left cheer this kind of stuff on. You're comfortable with letting the government. So that's this guy. He's comfortable with that. He's down for this. And so Matt Orfalea, who just got censored, says you're comfortable with letting the government determine what is misinformation and then banning people accused of misinformation from all online platforms? Yes. That's your typical Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden voter. That's them. Yes. That's your typical. That's your largest online news show, the Young Turks. But the Young Turks would say, they'll say, no, I just want the people I don't like censored, not the people I like, because they don't understand that once you censor, that's it. It's over. Once you set the precedent that you can censor the speech you don't like, it's over. Wow. And by the way, anyway, who cares? So he comes back. This guy comes back.
Oh.
He says, if it was an independent panel of experienced journalists making the decision about whether or not an account is spreading disinformation, and if the accused get a chance to make their case before they're banned, then yes, I'd support that. Disinformation is the reason we still have COVID.
Oh, is that?
Imagine thinking that disinformation is the reason we still have COVID instead of a government completely abandoning its people during a pandemic and not taking care of essential workers. A third of all the people who died from COVID died because the government failed to give them health care. We do not have universal health care in the United States, and that's attributed for a third of the deaths of COVID. Isn't that amazing? Is that like around 100,000 people? Hasn't 300,000 people died from COVID? See how many people have died from COVID so far.
I was just thinking about Carl Gibson right now. Isn't this phrase disinfo is the reason we still have COVID? Couldn't I just deplatform him because that's just random?
That's random.
That's a random piece of disinformation that there's no.
That's not a fact.
No support.
That's not a fact.
Bye, Carl.
That's not a fact. Right? That isn't this disinformation. That's why we still have COVID. An independent panel of experienced journalists, like the panel that led us into the Iraq war based on lies, killing 1 million people and creating ISIS. You mean like that independent panel of journalists, like that were at the New York Times and the Washington Post that said and CNN that said we should go into Iraq, that Saddam has WMDs and you're an idiot if you don't think so? I mean, those kind of independent journalists. That's what Matt Orfalea is making a great point. Exactly right. Glenn Greenwald says, when right before the 2020 election, Twitter banned all links to the New York Post reporting on the Biden archive, and Facebook announced through its lifelong Democrat operatives that it would block the reporting, all based on a CIA lie, and journalists cheered. The dangers were obvious. So he's pointing out that when they censored actual information that ubiquitously in the United States press right before the 2020 election, they suppressed information about Joe Biden's son and his influence peddling. And journalists all cheered. So, no, I'm not going to let a panel of journalists decide who gets to have free speech and who doesn't. If there's a problem with if someone's breaking a law, there's governmental agencies that are supposed to enforce the law. If last March you encouraged people to wear masks against COVID, the WHO, the CDC, and Fauci cabal said that was disinformation. We showed you that video that Fauci did that. Fauci said shouldn't be wearing a mask. Fauci said that. If through 2020 you said it seems possible COVID came from a lab leak, you were banned from social media. Who trusts them to be the ministry of truth? They've been wrong about and lying about COVID. Not only wrong, Fauci admitted he lied about COVID. We've showed you that videotape a million times where he said, they asked him, hey, why did you tell people not to wear masks? And he said, well, we lied because we were afraid that people would go out and buy masks if they knew it would protect them. So we lied and said it wouldn't. So we could have more masks for the people working in hospitals. So they get to decide when they lie to you and when they don't. How could you ever trust anything Anthony Fauci ever says again? I don't. And if you do, you're what they call a sucker. Anything Anthony Fauci says right now has to be put up to the most extreme scrutiny because we've caught him being a pathological liar. Not lied once, not lied twice, but lied over 3 things that are huge. Here, a reporter asks Joe Biden, what's your message to platforms like Facebook? You ready for this? Listen to this.
COVID misinformation. What's your message to platforms like Facebook?
They're killing people. I mean, look, the only pandemic we have is among the unvaccinated. And they're killing people.
God.
Could you have more unbelievably over-the-top inflammatory rhetoric about social media? Hey, what's your message about Facebook? They're killing people. Facebook is killing people. That's what he's saying. So now we get to do whatever we want. So now we have to censor. And let's remember, censorship is the fascism. And what is fascism really about? Fascism is about propping up late-stage capitalism. That's what this is. That's what capitalism. It always becomes fascist, and this is what's happening. Clean up on aisle dementia. Every censor throughout history in every culture has justified their censorship by claiming the suppressed information is dangerous and the censorship is for the public good. Liberals defending the Biden White House on this ground think they've invented some novel benevolent rationale. Every dictator who keeps information, they always say, no, we have to keep the bad information out from the people. It's the info. Oh, we can't have that. They're trying to sow discord. That's just exactly what the United States is saying now. They said we needed the internet censorship because Russians. They said we need internet censorship because COVID. They said we need internet censorship because of January 6th. They said we need internet censorship because domestic extremists. Pretty sure they just want internet censorship. She's exactly right. Caitlin Johnstone nails it again. Do you want to see Fauci lying about masks and Of course, he wouldn't be banned from all platforms.
Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask.
You're sure of it? Because people are listening closely. Yep, I'm sure of it. And he went on to admit that he was lying right there. He wasn't misinformed. He knew exactly what he was saying, and he knew he was lying. And he justified that lie to you. The top health guy in the country lied to you about health, so you maybe went out and got sick and died. You probably wouldn't. Maybe there's a good chance there's people who got COVID because of this lie that he told. But again, the government doesn't want you to censor their lies. You can't censor their lies, like what Joe Biden just did. You can't censor their lies or their rhetoric or their misinformation. You know, the biggest source of misinformation is the government, and the second biggest source of misinformation is the establishment press. So they censor because they care. They censor because they care, ladies and gentlemen. That's why, just same reason they want to bomb Cuba, because they care. Same reason they want to bomb Syria and Libya, because they care. The same reason they turn Iraq into because they care. Okay. This is fascism, late-stage capitalism. This is how it goes. Our live shows are back. August 4th, we're in Burbank. August 7th, we're in Chicago. We're going to Portland. We're going to Boston. We're going to everywhere. Go to JimmyDoreComedy.com for a link for tickets.